My name is Dr. Maria Martinez, this year chair of the League of Volunteers, with a warm welcome to all of you as you join us for this very special event hosted by the League of Volunteers called Transforming Community Through Service. And this evening, it is my privilege and an honor to introduce our moderator for this panel. His name is Andale and Cepal. He's a distinguished Toastmaster and a member of the Transformation Toastmasters Club. He's also an advocate for the transformative power of community service. Andy has held numerous leadership positions at the club, area, division, and district level, and his dedication to service is evident through his many accolades, including the 2014 Student Volunteer of the Year and multiple awards for community service excellence and volunteer spirit from Mississippi State University. In 2013, Andy was honored with the Spirit of State Award for his outstanding contributions to student life and was recognized as a hometown hero for his community service and volunteerism in Starkville, Missouri, Andy?
Mississippi.
Andy's passion for service and leadership makes him the perfect guide for tonight's inspiring conversation. Please join me in welcoming tonight's panel moderator, Andy Cepal.
Good evening, everyone. Toastmasters, volunteers, leaders, and panelists. And welcome to tonight's panel, Transforming Communities Through Service. I'll be serving as the moderator for the next 50 minutes or so of this inspiring discussion on how we can transform the communities around us through our service. Our goal is to ignite a deeper passion for volunteerism within the League of Volunteers and the Toastmasters community. By sharing their experiences, our panelists, all recipients of the J.S.C. Williams Spirit Award, will inspire meaningful action and impact. But who is J.S.C. Williams? This award honors the legacy of J.S.C. Williams. He served over 20 years in the Navy and mentored hundreds of athletes and fostered 26 young adults and held numerous Toastmaster leadership roles. In every role, he exemplified service and kindness. This award was established in 2013, and it celebrates those who embody his spirit of service. Tonight, our panelists will share their journeys, challenges, and insights to inspire greater engagement in volunteerism. Here's how the evening will flow. We'll begin with a series of questions that are designed to spark some thought-provoking discussions and some personal reflections from our panelists. After that, we'll open the floor to our guests, you, the audience, for a Q&A session. But before we start with the question, we want to know who our panelists are, who these distinguished recipients of the J.S.C. Williams Spirit Award are. The first recipient ever making history is Pimpa Part in 2013, the recipient of this award. I'll ask her to introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pimpa Part. I am originally from Thailand, and I joined Toastmasters over 30 years ago, strictly to improve my English, and I'm still a Toastmaster now. I'm retired now, and my daily life pretty much as a retiree is Toastmasters and volunteer at the temple. I do a lot of volunteer job at the temple twice a week. I do a lot of volunteer job with Toastmasters. I am serving as the club co-chair for our district this term. And that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Vicky Iozia, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Vicky Iozia. I have been in Toastmaster for almost 30 years. And I am grateful for all of the learning that I've had that has enabled me to do the activities that I do. I was a special education teacher, an administrator for 31 years. And I retired early. When I retired, it was like a whole new life. I had all kinds of volunteer opportunities, and I have enjoyed every one of them. They've been a lot of fun. In addition, whenever I volunteer, I take Toastmasters with me. I think, gee, Toastmasters does this really well. I should try to teach people how to do it so they'll be effective with the way Toastmasters does. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Vicky. And our final panelist, Manal Fakari. Can you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. It's great to see all of you. And I'll introduce myself by saying I was born in the Middle East in Palestine. And for as long as I can remember, I loved being part of so many things. In high school, they actually had to make a rule that you cannot be president of more than 4 clubs, because I had become president of 5 different clubs. And I always say that God gave me just a really nice type A personality. So through the years, it probably took me 20 years to join Toastmasters. I think I heard about Toastmasters in college. And, finally everything lined up, the stars in the sky and the moon. And it was John Ryan, who, Patricia Wagner, he was our mentor. God bless him. He started a club at the United Way where I was on the board. Like everything just lined up. So it was easy to finally step into Toastmasters, and loved it and understand the value, especially being someone kind of like Pim as an English as a second language speaker and student at the, from when I first came into the US. So I love the opportunity that we all have to grow. And I often say that, anyone can speak, but to be able to connect, that's the difference maker. And I love that we can gain the skill set while we're all working together, helping each other. So there's huge value in the Toastmaster world. And it's interesting that you both said that you've been 30 years. I think I need to look up how long it's been for me, but I'm going to guess closer approaching maybe 20 years. I don't think I'm quite to the 20-year mark, but thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you, Manal, Vicky, and Pim. Let's get started. To begin, I want to ask a very fundamental question, taking you back to the time you received the award. J.S.C. Williams' life exemplified extraordinary service. What inspired you to start giving back? And how does receiving the J.S.C. Williams Spirit Award shape your ongoing commitment to service? I will start with Vicky.
When I received the reward, I thought of a quote. I'm not sure which one of the Beatles said it, but he said, when you enjoy what you're doing, that's great. When you get an award for doing it, that's really fantastic. It was a surprise when I got it, and it was wonderful. It's a beautiful award, and I'm glad that my work has been appreciated. That's only a small part of the growth that I've had from my volunteer activities.
Thank you, Vicky. Manal, the same question.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. I wish I had known J.C. Williams. I did not get to know him or know his, life story, but it was, it's a great honor to be, and he must have been extremely special for us as as a district to even have an award to name after him. And probably my, especially in Toastmasters specifically, I do volunteer work in other areas. I believe, I am, and I tell my children, like, it's easy to go all the way to the top if you're a volunteer. Everybody loves a good volunteer. And I know the value that you get back when you volunteer. So it's not a one-way path. But I had become very involved in chartering new clubs for the district. There was a time when I aspired to become the district, I know at one time called it governor. I don't even know what we call it anymore, district director. And also I got very involved in the prison with the gavel clubs. So those, in terms of, how did the J.C. Williams Award, or yes, it was a wonderful surprise and something that I appreciate and honor, accept that honor. But I believe it was the time when, I was serving the district in chartering new clubs and getting involved with the gavel clubs in the prison. Thank you.
Thank you, Manal. Pim? Can you unmute?
I know J.C. Williams personally. I sat next to him at work. He's a technician and I was a technician. But as a Toastmaster, he's such a storyteller, and he will share with us the story while he was serving in the Navy. He was in the submarine, how he was in the submarine for 6 months at a time. And he shared a great story. He's a funny man. And the question is, what inspired me to start giving back like J.C. Williams did? It started with my culture. Coming from Thailand, we treat everybody like families. We always want to be nice to everybody and always try to help people. We put others before ourselves, and that's just the culture. But when I received this J.C. Williams Award, I know you can see it right here. It's gorgeous. It motivated me to continue to do what I can to help others, to support whoever need to be supported, to help others. And that's my answer for now.
Thank you very much, Pam. You said helping others, Manal. You said the value, you know the value when you give back. The next question is on these two topics. Can you share a moment when you felt the impact of your volunteerism and how it transformed your life or the lives of others? Manal.
Okay, thank you. You're making me think about different opportunities, and I'm going to bring it to something strange. It's going to sound strange right now to all of you. And it's interesting because a minute ago I put a welcome message to Patricia, so I welcome everyone, but Patricia is a very special friend. So back in 2021, I actually ran for mayor of my city. And what was interesting about that whole run, like my city has never had a female mayor, let alone an African-American mayor, Hispanic mayor, Asian mayor. It's always been a white man. But for so many cycles, a woman would run. And I was like, I was like the third woman to attempt. And the reason I bring that up is probably the thing that stood out. And I had a campaign manager and headquarters. I mean, we ran a professional campaign, but over and over again, people would say to me, Manal, do you remember you helped me with the Women's Pilot Club, or you helped my son win a speech contest. And that came up a lot throughout, and it was, the campaign was sure, it was like an 11-week, massive energy campaign. But sometimes I think what I'm trying to say is that you touch people and you help them and you don't really realize the impact. And sometimes you're fortunate enough to run into someone that lets you know how important it was. And in terms of, the impact, I think for me, I see it week after week at the prison, and they tell me, and even tonight, actually right before this, I attended a holiday party. And as I was walking into the restaurant, a gentleman, a young guy on a bike, from the prison that I didn't realize he had been released, spent 10, 15 minutes talking to me about what he's been doing and since he's been released. So it's beautiful to see some of that. And I think sometimes when we serve, because it's part of our nature, we don't always know the impact that we're having. And sometimes you're fortunate enough to hear somebody, relay that with you. And sometimes it's many years later.
Thank you, Manal. Pim, so the question is, share a moment where you felt the impact of your volunteerism and how it transformed your life or the life of others.
When I was district director, that was in 2020. That was in the middle. Matter of fact, it's in the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And I'm in the position that I have to make the decision that will impact 4,000 Toastmaster members. And I use all my skills, my Toastmaster skills, to try to hold us together, to try to convince us to go forward, to try to support them, find the training and everything for them, to start learning how to do hybrids, and also to not give up the club. So I feel that my decision, because I have to make decision on behalf of the deck. How do we go forward with the COVID? So the very first decision that we did together with the trio, Debbie Jo, myself, and Paula, is to not having the contest, the area contest. The club already did that contest, but the club did the club contest, but the area contest is just happening. And we have to make a decision for the benefit, for the safety of our members to go ahead and not doing the contest that year. And that affect a lot of people, a lot of contestants not very happy about it. But that impact a lot of people. But we kept everybody safe. Back to you.
Thank you, Pim. Vicky? Same question.
Yes, one of the volunteer experiences that I had was that I was a guardian ad litem for 18 years. And as a guardian ad litem, you are advocating for a child or children who have been abused, who have been neglected. And you have to speak to parents, you have to have a relationship with the child, and sometimes you have to testify in court. And testifying in court is a little bit nerve-wracking because people, the attorneys are going to come at you with certain things and try to make you say certain things. When I got up there in the box to testify, Toastmasters was right up there with me. I would do what we do in Toastmasters. We think about what we're going to say. We have it organized. And as I would go back to my seat, the people who worked with me would go, yeah, you did it, Vicky. You're a pit bull. And they meant that in a positive way. So I'm really proud of how I was able to advocate for kids and make something happen that would make their lives better.
So I will ask a follow-up question to this question. And I would like to know how volunteerism in the various ways that you shared have transformed your lives. All of you mentioned how it transformed the lives of others, but what's in it for you? What did you get out of it? I'll start with Manal.
Yeah, thank you. You're reminding me of a way that I've shared the story before, and I say I was minding my own business. And I love, anything leadership, I love, I tend to gravitate. I remember, I'm trying to summarize the story quickly, where a piece of mail came to, it was not intended for my P.O. box, but the word that I saw was leadership, and it was an application to apply for a program called Leadership Ocala. It's in many cities across the country. And it was like right around the deadline. But basically, by applying and going through Leadership Ocala, they select one person to represent the class on the Chamber of Commerce board. And I didn't know anything about the Chamber of Commerce, but I went from a class member to having a non-voting seat at the Chamber of Commerce, and the powerful Chamber of Commerce. And then I went from that non-voting seat, and that was the year that I actually lost my mom. Missed a few meetings, but I had also, talk about that type A personality I mentioned earlier, when they would have a membership drive and they said, we just need each person on the board to get us 3 new members. And I had gotten them 37 new members. And it was just because my mom used to teach us something. She used to say, intentionality matters. And so I took it to heart and I just kept calling people. It became easy. I created a little, mental script that I could just tell you. Anyway, so I went from a non-voting member, having missed a few meetings because I had lost my mom and traveled to California, to go into the executive committee and being the vice president of membership. So in terms of, how does it, and then actually one of the board members was the president of SunTrust Bank, which I'm still on the SunTrust Bank, which is now Truist Bank. So what has it done for me? And I think it really has to do with sincerity. I think that's something else that, my mom always taught us, is just be sincere in the work that you do. So I think it opened up a lot of beautiful things. I became chairwoman of the chamber. It was a big deal because, again, mostly men that had been, and we have a very strong chamber. And now I'm, chair of the YMCA, which is a very strong YMCA in Ocala. So I guess what I'm saying is, when you're sincere and you do it because you want to help, not that there's any ulterior motive, many opportunities open up for you. So it's been beautiful for me. And it's something that fulfills me. It gives me purpose to serve and learn. And there's always that learning, exchange of learning that happens when you serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Manal. Pim?
Yes, Toastmasters is a volunteer organization. And everybody, when they step up to serve something, you always get that leadership training. There's always somebody there to help you, to mentor you. And I take that into my work. I use those skills that I learned through Toastmaster to put in for job promotion. I use all those leadership skill, like club president or anything like that, to put in my resume, and I was able to get a few promotions out of it. So that's how it impacts my life. I take advantage of everything that I learned through Toastmasters, and I used with my professional life. And also, everything I learned through Toastmaster, I use it at the place where I volunteer. I volunteer at the Buddhist temple. So I use those skills to help the temple. I introduced VP of education. They never even thought about that before. And I got that from the Toastmaster training. So I helped shape the community, as far as help shape the functionality of the temple to have it more structure, organization. Back to you.
Thank you, Pim. Vicky?
I wrote an article for the district newsletter. I think it was last year. Once a Toastmaster, always a Toastmaster. And I have gotten so much from my volunteer activities. 20 years ago, I started volunteering at the Ellie Schiller Homosassa Springs Wildlife State Park, and I fell in love. I fell in love with a hippopotamus. Google Lou the hippopotamus sometimes. He is a big deal around here. And wonder of wonders, he fell in love with me. People would say, he doesn't respond to me that way. When I was doing programs, unfortunately, they don't have the hippo program anymore, but I did it for many years. I did it for 3 days a week. Talk about using Toastmasters skills. I never knew how many people were going to be there at any particular day. At times, there could be hundreds of people. Now, I host his birthday party once a year, where there are people as far as the eye can see. So that unorthodox thing of falling in love with a hippopotamus would not have happened without Toastmasters skills. I also volunteer for the sheriff's department. I do crime patrol. And when I wear that uniform, people are always smiling and saying, thank you very much for your service. And I know I do that well because of Toastmasters. I'm also now the president of our local League of Women Voters, and everything I do, I think Toastmasters taught me this, and maybe I can help that organization to be a little bit better by telling them about the skills. For instance, training officers, getting officers trained twice a year. I think it's a big deal, so people don't just get a job, they know what they're going to be doing. So it's part of my daily life that I receive from what I'm giving as far as volunteering.
Thank you very much, Vicky. All of you mentioned Toastmasters and how it has impacted you. In a sense, we are a service organization, if you think about it, because we build skills. We come here for the communication, but when we get to experience leadership and the service that we provide to be a part of leadership, we stay in the program. As you say, Vicky, once a Toastmaster, always a Toastmaster. So much so that one of our core values is service. However, not everybody is interested in this aspect of Toastmasters serve. We can serve in our clubs, in our areas, in our division, in our district, and even beyond. So what would you, or how would you advise those who are hesitant to get involved in service at the club level, at the area level, at the division level, at the district level? I will start with Pim.
I would lead by example. When I joined Toastmasters, my supervisor made me join it because she could not understand my English. I didn't do this on my own. And I saw the benefit of it. I saw how I improved myself at the club and at work. And I feel like I'm leading other people in my situation, people whose English is a second language, who might be hesitate to step up to do anything. And I feel like I can use myself and as an example that if I can do it with proper training, they all can do it too, and they all can benefit it too. And with that mindset, I helped starting a Toastmaster club at my Buddhist temple. It's called Peace Talkers Toastmasters Club. It's 7 years old now. And my whole purpose is to help the community whose English is a second language to learn those important skills that we can get from Toastmasters so they can benefit themselves in the real world. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Pim. Manal?
Yeah, I think, there's so many opportunities for us to serve in so many ways, in any community, but specifically with Toastmasters, I think that's what makes an organization great. And that's what makes it an experience for each and every one of us is to continue to grow. And Toastmasters, something I say a lot to friends and, in the prison stuff is like, when you've been around for 95 years, 98 years, like now we're over 100, is you figure out how to do things. And they have also a very nice sheet where they basically translate every role that you can take on, whether you become a club president or the club treasurer or the club, public relations person, that's transferable skills in the workforce. So I tell, my friends that a lot, or other Toastmasters. Now, what's interesting to me is in the prison, you have like 3 people, like we have to have elections and they give speeches and we have votes because there's that much interest in holding these roles, versus in many of our clubs, you might have a committee and they just appoint someone, okay, who wants to do what, and it's done. So I would just encourage, if you haven't done a role, challenge yourself. There's, great skills that you can actually transfer, across, whatever career you're working on. But mostly it's also just to give back and be part of giving. And that's always such a wonderful feeling to give back and receive in return. Thank you.
Thank you, Manal. Vicky?
When people are working, sometimes the job is all consuming. I know my job didn't leave me a lot of time for a lot of other activities, except for Toastmasters. I am of an age now where I have been retired for a while, and I live in a community where we have many retired people. I tell my friends when they retire, first couple of weeks, maybe the first month, you're going to say, yay, I don't have to do a whole lot of stuff. But then you're going to say, well, wait a minute, what am I going to do with all this time? In my volunteer activities, they kind of found me. I met somebody who was a guardian ad litem, and I said, I think that would be a good thing to do. For me, through my career and through my volunteering, I always feel like I have to be giving back. It's my purpose. I think if people come on this earth and their purpose is not to make the world a better place, then they're missing something. So I would tell people, wait for the opportunity to find you and then jump for it. Like if you're on the merry-go-round, grab that ring, because the next time you come around, it might not be there. If you find a volunteer activity and you don't like it, you can try something else. Don't be afraid to try different things until you find a good fit, because what you will get back from the volunteering is something that you don't get in other places. It's pretty unique.
Thank you, Vicky. From the responses I gather, be an example, have some common interests or a shared sense of purpose. What I learned from Pim over the years, just ask the member to serve in a role, and that's what she does. And that's how she got me to volunteer in all the roles I've been volunteering for in Toastmasters under her leadership. just ask, because people are wanting to, but they're just waiting to be asked. What are some of the challenges you've faced in serving others or in volunteering, and how you overcome them? It can be, for me, it's time management. But I would like to hear how you have overcome the challenges you have faced, and I will start with Manal.
Yeah, thank you. Couple of thoughts. One is leveraging your time and the things that you're doing. So for example, like I've had people even say to me, Manal, like, why do you piddle with Toastmasters? Like, why don't you do the National Speakers Association? But honestly, I love the simplicity of Toastmasters. And then as far as, leveraging our time. So for example, like with Toastmasters, I can leverage it by presenting on a topic that I want to learn about. So, or a topic that I'm going to be presenting for another organization. So it gives, there's like multiple ways to leverage that time. The other thing is, in terms of, for me, when I, especially when my kids were younger, and I have 5 children, and we had this joke, like where I would tell people, like I would get invited. And of course, like I said, people love a good volunteer, people that are driven, that will take action. And I would get invited to be on all those boards. And I would say things like, I'll serve on your board, but don't tell my husband. And inevitably, it always got to him. There's like, we want to thank Manal. We're so grateful to have Manal on our board. So there was a joke like that in our family. But here is what I really want to say is, like, for me personally, my parents modeled that for me and my siblings. So my parents were very involved in the community. They gave back a lot. And I feel like now my children similarly are very community and civically engaged. So as far as challenges, yes, time can be a challenge, but there's a smart way sometimes where you're actually, bringing 2 and 3 opportunities together to leverage your time.
Thank you, Manal. Vicky, the same question.
Yes, I know, Manal, you said you're type A. For a while, I felt like I was type A. I was always busy. When I had my career, teaching is not a career that you just leave and come back the next day. And then I retired, and I proceeded to be putting so many other things in that I was working just as many hours and just as hard as when I was teaching. And then came COVID, and I couldn't do the things that I was doing. I couldn't do some of the volunteer activities because of the disease. And I realized that it was important for me to back off some things, to say no to some things, and to be more careful about how I manage my time so that I have the time to do all the other things that I want to do. I'm still involved in volunteer activities, but I don't make myself crazy anymore. When I feel it coming on, I know to back off. And one of the most important things that I've learned, and I'm very grateful for, is as the president of the League of Women Voters, I have a wonderful group of people to work with, and I can actually delegate. And I really love that, being able to delegate and stand back and watch it happen.
Thank you, Vicky. Pim.
Yes. Challenge with any organization is conflict. A lot of time you will run into some conflict. It's not because somebody's right, somebody's wrong. It's just that people have different opinions, and you just have to overcome that. And don't let little thing get to you. Don't let little thing bother you. Just focus on your task, and you keep focusing on your task and continue to do what you're supposed to do, then you can overcome that. Yeah, the challenge is a different personality that I have experienced. Back to you.
May I add one thing? I think also when you were asking us about challenges, I think if you also have good people around you, people that help you, that share in your, mission or the project that you're working on, the goals, the community service. I think, because I will say, and it happens every time, I'm so grateful. And I said it to somebody last night that was helping me with TEDx Ocala. And again, I'm going to reference Patricia's in the room. if people just show up in your life, I think it's incredible. And sometimes they're only there for that one event or that one time. Like even if you do this event, you repeat, you do it year after year. And I'm always just amazed how God puts these people like angels, you know, in your path. And I think we need to be open to that, is to invite others to help us achieve the goals that we're doing, whether it's, you know, for an organization or a service project. So just, you know, be open to inviting new people to help you.
Thank you, Manal. I'll ask a question that was inspired by some of your responses, and that is, in your Toastmasters journey, reflect on your decades of being a Toastmaster. What has been your most fulfilling act of service? We'll start with Pim.
When I realized how wonderful it is to be able to help others, that's when I put in for the club growth director, you have to print up all your accomplishment. And I printed the member that I have sponsored. It was over 100 members. And that's when I realized how wonderful it is. It's such a wonderful experience to be able to help over 100 people, introduce them to Toastmasters. And with the success that I received through Toastmaster, I expect all of them to be successful also. Because I say this a lot, Warren Buffett said, if you can improve your communication by 50%, you can improve your life. And it felt really good to realize at that moment that I have helped introduce over 100 people to Toastmaster, and I'm still continuing to do that.
Thank you very much, Pim. Vicky?
My mom used to say, if something stands still long enough, Vicky will teach it something. And I have the opportunity to use my teaching skills in Toastmasters, particularly with new members, to help them to grow. The Toastmasters evaluation is a wonderful thing, because you say evaluation, and people are like, oh my God, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? But an evaluation in Toastmasters is so much gentle, so much more gentle than like the rest of the world. And I see Karen's here. Hi, Karen. At our last meeting, we had a member who had done a speech, and he had been looking down at his notes. And I spoke to him and I said, I know you need your notes, but you need to make eye contact. And just this past week, he did a speech, and boy, did he nail it. And I was so proud of him that I began my valuation by running across the room and giving him a hug. When you see somebody who's afraid, and then all of a sudden, when they get empowered and they realize what they can do and they improve, that to me is one of the greatest joys of life.
Thank you, Vicky. Manal? You're muted.
Lots of great memories and thoughts on, you know, special moments within the Toastmaster journey. But I would say initially for me, it was chartering a club in Palestine, in Ramallah, which is a very strong club. And what's interesting is there's a friend who would come and visit, and he had become a Toastmaster, but he could only do like maybe 3 speeches, you know, during that visit. So we were calculating that would take him almost like 3 years to become just to get his CC. And we had called Toastmasters and said, hey, can we let him Skype in? Back then, like there was not even Zoom, was not even a thing, but we use Zoom. And they're like, no, you cannot use Skype. And imagine after COVID, how everything switched. But the real treasure of him becoming is, you know, chartering that club in Ramallah, Palestine, and having multiple. There is a rule at the international conference that in order to carry the flag into that ceremony, when they start the whole thing, is you have to have at least 5 clubs. And we were able to do that. And one year, and I was there the first year that the Palestinian flag was included, And then another year where I wasn't there, Bob Fisher sent me a picture where he carried the Palestinian flag in. So that to me was huge, especially a part of the world that's under occupation and, is always, experiencing war and trauma. So I would coin that. The other thing has just been exciting to see other people get their DTM. So once and I've told people, like, once you know how to charter a club, you can do it multiple times. You can do it faster. You can teach other people. Once you know how to start a club in the prison, you can do it multiple times. You can do it faster and help other people. So it's been exciting to see other friends become DTMs. And so I have a fun tradition where I give them a watermelon and we write DTM on the watermelon. So those have been fun moments for me.
Thank you very much, Manal. I would like to ask a question on the legacy of service. What we can do to ensure that we leave a lasting positive legacy within our communities we serve. And while you're answering that question, I'm thinking we're having this discussion, but we really haven't defined what is a community and what is the community we serve, because our circle of, our sphere of influence is really our community, and it differs for each one of us. So think about that. What is the community you serve, and how we can ensure that our service, or generally, we can leave a lasting positive legacy in these communities. I will start with Vicky.
Well, at my age, when you reach a certain age, you start thinking that maybe you're not going to be here that much longer. Although I do intend to be around for a long time, but I'm closer to the end than I am to the beginning. My legacy is up to other people, and they will decide what they decide. My goal is to do what I want to do, to serve and to feel good about what I'm doing. And for that, that's a day-to-day activity. Whenever I'm working on something, as I have matured over the years, I step back. If we have a situation where people are getting all in a tizzy and worried about things, my goal is to get everybody to calm down, take a look at the situation, make a decision, and then have people be able to do what needs to be done. So legacy, that's everybody else's business. But for me, I want to feel good about what I'm doing and knowing that I'm communicating and helping other people. That makes me happy.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Pim.
Can you repeat the question, please?
So what we can do to ensure that we have, or we leave a lasting positive legacy in the communities we serve. And I was asking for us to think about the community, because being in Toastmasters, that is one of the communities we serve. And mentoring and coaching, those leave lasting impacts. That's what motivated me to ask this question, how we can leave an enduring legacy in the communities we serve.
To leave the legacy, I would say, just for me, is to find something that can benefit more people, something that you are very experienced with, something that you can share. I use the example of starting a Toastmaster club at a Buddhist temple. I will consider that my legacy as a volunteer, as a Toastmaster volunteer, and also as a volunteer at the temple. And also, because I'm one of the officers at the temple, when they invite a representative from the temple to go speak at the college, I usually go there. The monk will send me there. And I get a chance to not only showcase my Toastmaster skill, also because the topic we can talk about Buddhism. So I was able to share Buddhism with all the students at the world religion class. And to me, that the kind of legacy that I'm doing. When we do the speechcraft, Deputy found many employees at WIN, Philippines. And there's so many classes there, many speechcraft. And at one time I was able to participate. And that part of the legacy, they got introduced to Toastmaster, and I believe all of them became Toastmasters. So I get to meet them and leave something there as an example, somebody whose English is a second language that join Toastmaster, become leaders, and they can do it too. And that's the kind of legacy I want to leave. I want to lead by example.
Thank you, Pam. And Manal?
Yeah, thank you, Andy. When you spoke about community, and I think for myself personally, like, I sometimes when I look at the community, I look at my local community, I look at the Toastmaster community, maybe like even the prison, or even the Muslim community or the Arab American community. So I feel like I'm in many. But for me, like a lasting legacy and something that I dream about is the liberation of Palestine. And I've said to my children, like the thing I hope, like I pray that I'm alive to witness that happening. And, if you're following any international news, just to see what has happened in Syria, just for them to be able to overcome a dictator. So if we can overcome another occupation, brutal occupation, and end a genocide, that would be amazing. So that would be a legacy. And that's something I actually invest time and energy. The importance of persuasive speaking, articulation, being able, like when we talk about, and I've used this example a lot with, if you go online, it's the speech that made Obama president. It was when he gave that speech at the DNC, he was an unknown senator, but he was so articulate. And I even remember my daughter, who was in middle or even elementary school, and she would listen to NPR, and when I would take her to school, like she started paying attention. So imagine when we had never heard of Senator Obama at the time. So I say that to say how important, you can actually, start a war or create peace, with a speech. So good job to Pam, on the peace building that you're doing through your Buddhist temple. And I'm so proud of, Vicky, just listening to you and all what you've accomplished. But yes, my husband and I, we're so blessed and we work hard. We think we're still building our careers. And honestly, like we say, or I say a lot, we don't need to change anything. We want to build hospitals. We want to build schools. We want to build parks. We want to liberate a country. That's where our energy is. So that would be our lasting legacy.
Thank you very much, Manal, Pim, and Vicky, for addressing some of these questions and sharing your experiences. And hopefully it can inspire our audience to start volunteering, participating at the club, area, division, district levels, and start giving back to our communities. I know I'm speaking to the choir here because this group of Toastmasters on this call, but there will be lots more listening to the recording. We'll now open up the floor to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we will address as based on your number in the queue. So Julie.
Yeah, I like to add things. I'm not sure how to explain, but you people are so much influence on most of us. When a person joined as a guest and she came from Ukraine and she hardly speaks English, I immediately said, Pimpa Part example. I mean, it's a ripple effect that I can use you as an example. The other item that I want to point out to you is I benefited a lot from COVID. Not the virus, but the Zoom aspect. I would have never met Andy, and who else is on? Debbie Joe and Vicky Goodman and Maria Martinez. I would have never met them if it hadn't been Zoom. I know that in-person meetings are much more effective, and I know that now the division contest and everything is in person, but it actually limits my participation because in the past, I was only a member of one club, Toastmasters, and then Susan, my friend, was driving me to Pistokers, you remember PM, because I don't like to drive because I don't see well, even in the daylight. And now I am a member of Division 84, 3 groups, a Division 101 and a Division 5. And I visited a Hungarian club, and I visit and learn a lot and help out and volunteer. And I know that Pim was offering some coaching possibility, and I'm still want to coach. Remember, sign me up for a club. But I think that we should never get rid of the Zoom meetings because corporate training also, I was in corporate training and I used to travel all over the locations, and all of a sudden we had to virtually train. This one will never go out of fashion, and we have to learn how to use this media effectively and efficiently. So these are just my comment, but I am grateful for all of you who contributed so much for my development. Thank you.
I'd just like to say, Zoom is an amazing thing. For the past 5 years, I've also been volunteering in the English language learners program. So I've got a friend in Mexico, I've got a friend in Lake Tahoe, and I'll tell you, my hat is always off to the people who are doing Toastmasters as a second language. Pim, you're amazing.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Julie. Debbie Jo, I have a question for the panelists.
Well, Maria had her hand up first. Do you want to?
That's okay if you want to go first, Debbie. I do have a question, but I can wait. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm so honored to be in the presence of this amazing panel here, including Andy. I feel like by your answers that all three of you don't really know the impact that you have had on so many people. Somebody mentioned empowering people. I've just been taking notes because I just love this session. And I wonder if you really know how much you've impacted people, including myself. So my question is, do you feel like maybe one of the most impactful things is how you've mentored other people and watched other people grow? Thank you.
Anyone can address that question if you have a response for Debbie Jo.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pim?
I'll go first and then you go.
Okay.
Absolutely, Debbie Jo. I have an honor of working with Debbie Jo, and we help each other. We support each other. She's the best person I can work with, and I'm so grateful that she was part of my team. As far as impacting, we all do our best and just hope that our best is good enough for everybody. But I'm so grateful to be working with Debbie Jo. She taught me a lot. She taught me about the universe.
I think sometimes you learn what the impact is, and sometimes you just throw it out there and you never know. And it reminds me of a story from my early teaching experience. where I had a young man who was I taught kids with behavior and learning problems. And this young man, his name was Tony. He was a fighter, but he was like a sissy fighter. He just, do this, but he was always getting into trouble. And I worked with him and he stopped fighting. Well, a few years later, when he wasn't in my class anymore, I saw his mom at the grocery store and she said, "Would you please come to dinner?" And I came to dinner and we were sitting there at the table and she said to me, "You see that little indentation in the paneling?" Back then they had paneling on the walls. I said, "Yeah." She said, "That's where my husband, who she had thrown out of the house, Tony was at the table and he was saying, so and so hit me and I didn't hit him back." And his father picked him up by the shoulders and slammed him into that wall. And that indentation was where his head went through the wall. Now, I never would have known about that. And from his perspective, if he'd come in and beaten me up the next day, he would have had motivation to do that. But I never would have known that I had made that kind of a difference in him and was appreciated for it. So sometimes it's like a ripple. Sometimes it goes way out. You may never hear about it, or you may hear about it years later. But for me, as long as I know I'm doing the right thing, I know that there's going to be some kind of a positive result from it.
Thank you, Vicky. We only have 2 minutes left, and I think we can only accommodate one question. I'll ask.
Let's go with
Patricia.
Patricia. Yes, of course.
Yes, with Patricia, and then immediately after Patricia, we'll have maybe 1 or 2 responses and a follow-up from Maria, who will close out the session. Patricia?
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I just want to say that I think all of you ladies are living legacies of service to all of us. And Pim, I got to know you a little bit when I was in Toastmasters. And Vicky, I was one of the members of the club you co-founded. And I've been a member of, I don't know how many clubs that Manal has been in and have continued on in watching her as, I tell you, the epitome of a service-oriented, heart-centered leader in our community and in the world. And by her example, I have learned and I have grown. And I think that's what it's all about, being a living example to others in the world. And that's the biggest gift we can give.
Thank you, Patricia.
I'd just like to say I'm proud to be on the panel with the both of you.
Too. Same here.
And with that, we're out of time. I would like to thank the 3 of you, Pim, Vicky, and Manal, for your time and sharing your stories with us. I would like to thank Maria, and I will now hand it over to Maria.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Vicky, Pim, and Manal. Everybody join me in giving this amazing panel a huge round of applause. Such an inspiring evening, and we cannot thank you enough for dusting off all of those memories and sharing with us this evening and inspiring us to take action. I'm reminded of the quote that says, "Do your little bit of good wherever you are, because it is those little bits of good that overwhelm the world," by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It's one of those quotes that inspires me, and you all brought that into my awareness today, because we can all make a difference. And one of the things that the League of Volunteers is doing is really just reframing the idea of we're just volunteers into we're serving, we are leaders, we are inspiring, we're motivating. And in fact, the new League of Volunteers, we reimagined it this year, and the new League of Volunteers is a group of individuals, humans, just like you, enhancing the Toastmasters experience through service and leadership. And our goal is really to inspire people, those individual members, to serve and to do that little bit of good across their clubs and their areas and their divisions, because we know that there's that ripple effect that impacts that sense of community. And at the same time, we're providing resources and continuing growing and developing ourselves. So what's not to love? I am really excited for all of the things that we're doing. Thank you again, Andy. Andy is one of our leaders within the committee. And with that, I would love to invite you all to join us at the League of Volunteers. We are right now, we're in the midst of the year with plenty of opportunities to serve. We're changing that, not a volunteer, we're serving, we're making things happen. We're the movers and the shakers and the leaders and the doers. And I have placed that application on the chat. Please consider joining us. There's that big, beautiful award that will be issued at conference that recognizes and honors all of the things that you are already doing. I would love to see you walk through that stage. I keep talking about a huge conga line that I would love to have us all create as we all make our ways over to that stage to receive our award. And finally, as a point of personal privilege, I'd love to invite you to join us on January 29th as Toastmasters' first Vice President. Stefano Maki will join us for Catalyst of Change. That too promises to be an unforgettable evening with our first Vice President, who will be Toastmasters International President in the upcoming year. And this will be a great opportunity for us to have an intimate evening with him and to learn more about how each of us can continue to be that catalyst of change. And with that, we are just a couple of minutes over. I am going to stop the recording, but not before thank each and every one of you for joining us this evening.